Board game timers are awesome. They gently nudge people out of analysis paralysis and make for shorter, snappier, and at least for me, more enjoyable games. But they do have one problem, and it is that they are all running from mobile phones, and mobile phones are inherently distracting. You know, we're all hardwired to reach for our phones, to scroll through Twitter or Facebook, and there's all these pop-ups and notifications. And wouldn't it be nice if we could get all the benefits of a board game timer without relying on a phone, a screen? Well, with the shared game timer, you kind of can. We can replace this with a little tactile remote control like this, or many other types that I'm going to be showing here in a bit. And in this video, I'm going to show you how that is all done. It's going to be a somewhat quick introduction, and in the text below, you can see much more details about how to set this up. So in this video, it's a quick overview. So first part is how can we put this into what we call presentation mode, and then in the second part, I'm going to show you all the different kinds of remote controls that we can use. So first thing, put this into presentation mode. So in the menu down here, the first thing we'll do is want to make sure that single device mode is checked. What that does is that it normally when you press a button, there's a little lag before it actually does the action, because it needs to make sure that no one else has pressed the button at exactly the same time. But if we are going to be using remote controls all hooked up to a single device, then we don't need to do that check, and it's going to make for a snappy interface. So long story short, just make sure that single device mode is pressed. If you don't see single device mode, if it's not in the menu, it's because you only have one device hooked up to the game. And so I know that there's no concurrency issue. Right, so basically if you see that, click it. The next thing is keep screen on. What that does, it's simple. When we put the phone away, hopefully attached to battery power, it's going to make sure that the screen doesn't go off after 5 minutes or whatever setting you have. The next thing is the speech synthesis. So if you click that and click use voice synthesizer, you can set up the voice here if you like, and then click save. Now, instead of the phone simply chiming when it changes players, it's going to speak the name of the new player. So,
good stuff. Done.
So that means that when we put the phone away, we can hear whose turn it is. And so that's quite useful. And then the final thing that we're going to do is we're going to press presentation mode. And what that does is that it fills the whole screen with the current player's color. So if I change the player now to Michael, then it turns green. And if I
good stuff
do it again, it goes red because that's my color. You can also see how long we've taken this turn. So less than a minute right now, we just started this turn. And then 39% is how much time of the whole gaming time that this user has taken up.
Done. Michael.
So Michael has taken up 36%. So if you have a 3-player game and someone has taken 60% of the time, you know that person probably should pick up the pace a little bit. So that's all about setting this up into presentation mode. Now at this point we can put this phone away, maybe at the windowsill or on the edge of the gaming table, so we can see it but we're not distracted by it anymore. But now we need a way to end the turn and do all the other actions. So now we're going to be looking at the 4 different kinds of remote controls that you can use in the shared game timer. So there are 4 categories of remote controls that you can use for the shared game timer. We have Bluetooth enabled headphones, Selfie Clickers, which you use to take selfies, Bluetooth enabled Gamepads, and then pretty much any Bluetooth low energy devices that you can program to act both as a remote control, but also to react to events in the game. So to, for example, change the light in the room to the current player color or whatever you might think of. So let's have a look at how each one of these work in practice. The simplest of these devices is the humble Bluetooth headset. And you probably have one or several of these lying around at home already. It's an easy thing to get started with. So the way that you use it is you go into the menu, go in under remote controls, and then hit media remote. and then back. And you should see a little symbol up here showing that the media interface is active. So now, in order to change the player, we basically just do whatever you do on the Bluetooth headset to do skip track forward. And if I want to pass the round, I do skip track backwards. And if I want to go into admin time, I do hit play pause. And sometimes it's a little bit, there we go. Now we're in admin time. And then to go back and resume the turn, I can either do skip track forward or hit the play pause again. And it's a little bit, so it doesn't always work, especially the play pause button seems to have some issues. It might be my Bluetooth headset. It might also be that this interface is very hacky. It's not the most responsive, and another big drawback with this is that you couldn't hear this device at all because it played all the sound through the headphones. So this is an easy thing to get started with something that you have lying around at home, but there are better options. So let's look at the next type of device. This is a teeny tiny little Bluetooth enabled gamepad. You might have a Nintendo Switch, or you might have some other kind of Bluetooth enabled gamepad, and if you do, you might be able to use it as a remote control for the shared game timer. Exactly how you set it up and how you program what button does what action in the game timer, I'm not going to show you. There's a guide below talking about how to do that in detail, but once it's all set up, it's really quite nifty. So I programmed this button here to function as the end turn button. Let me get back into the game. So
Michael.
That's ending the turn. I programmed this button here to function as passing.
Michael passed. Next up, done.
And I set this button to be admin time.
Admin time. Done.
And I set this button to be the pause button.
Game paused.
And then this button to be undo.
Undoing. Done. Back
So,
to done.
like you see, it's really responsive, and once it's programmed, it works really well. So if you have a gamepad, do try it out. Let me know if it works or if it doesn't work. I have a list of compatible gamepads. The Wii Mote, unfortunately, is not. So it's sad because lots of people have those lying around. But Nintendo Switch Joy-Con does work. Now, if you think that this is really cool, but you would want it to be even cooler, then let's have a look at the next category of devices, which is Bluetooth Low Energy devices. This is a little electronics board. Look at how fancy that is. I bought this for $25 from a company called Adafruit. It has 2 buttons, a little switch, and once you can program this kind of in the same way that you programmed the gamepad to do all kinds of things. And once it's hooked up, it takes a little bit of wiggling to get it done, but once it's set up, it's beautiful and it works really well. So let's have a look at how it's done. So I am going to go into remote controls under Bluetooth. I'm going to activate this. I'm going to hit connect. I'm going to connect to Circuit Playground. And it's connected. We can see 3 blue lights. We have 2 lights with constant light and 1 that is glowing. What that means is that Don, the blue player, is on his 3rd minute of playing. Now, if he wants to end his turn, he presses the A button.
Done.
Oh, everyone else has passed.
Round terminated.
Alright, so Don passed. It's now glowy green because the green player is the next person to start the round. So he can start the round by pressing the A button.
Michael.
And now it's Michael's turn. He's on his 1st minute. For each minute Michael takes, 1 more light is going to illuminate. And when he is done with his turn, he presses that button. If Gustav wants to pass, he presses
Gustav
that.
Passed.
If
Next
we
up, Done.
If we want to go into admin time, we flick the switch
Game paused.
down here. Oh, actually, that's game
Done.
pausing. If we want to go into admin time, we press both buttons at the same time.
Admin time.
And if we want to undo, this is the coolest thing,
Undoing. Done.
shake it.
Back to done.
And if you shake it, you undo.
Undoing. Done. Pause resumed.
So, this is cool. This is one of many different remote controls you can create yourself using Bluetooth Low Energy. The Share Game Timer has a really overly complex but also really powerful free-form way that it can interface with almost any Bluetooth device, like all of the Internet of Things, connected things that you can think of, it will be able to interface with. Be it LEDs in the room could turn into the light of the currently active player. You could build a little button like this one. You could have a little, I don't know, a vibrating bracelet around your leg that vibrates when it's your turn. Only your imaginations will set your limits. So if you are of a creative mind and you like making little gadgets, then you can do it. This you could buy for $25. The battery itself is $8. So all in all, it would cost something like $40 with shipping. And then the programming and how to make this is all described in various guides that you can find in the link below. I have a guide for how to make this, I have a guide for how to make this, and I will be adding more guides as I create more things. So that's really cool. There is one more type of device that I want to show you. This is the final category I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to do it very quickly because I don't actually recommend it. This is a selfie clicker. They were very popular a long time ago when people could use it to click to take selfies of your mobile phone. They work by sending either the enter key or the volume down key to your phone, which then sees that and reacts by taking a picture. Now, the Share Game Timer can try to listen to both of those two keys, and if it sees them, end the turn, or if you double click it, pass the round, or if you long press it, do something else. Now the problem is that the volume down key, if you have an iOS phone, there is no way for the Share Game Timer to intercept that. On Android, you can do it if you hack around with an app called Tasker. On Windows, it works out the box, and who knows what it does on Mac OS. So, if you get one of these clickers that sends the volume down key, compatibility might be an issue. And finding one that sends the enter key is getting more and more hard to do online. So, my advice is, if you have one of these lying around at home already, try it. Contact me if you're struggling, I might be able to help. But if you don't have one of these, don't bother buying one. Instead, spend a little bit more money and buy something like this or something like this, which is going to be a lot more stable, a lot more compatible, and work just nicer. And with that, we have covered the 4 categories of devices that you can use. We have the Bluetooth headset, we have the gamepad, we have the Bluetooth monster things, and we have the selfie clickers that you might not want to use. I hope that is enough. If you can think of another category of devices that I should be able to interface with me, absolutely contact me. I love making these weird things. And by that, it really is time for me to end this video. Thank you so much for paying attention, and happy gaming.